I'm a fraud, 'cause I'm a true psychopath. When you're lost, take your trust. That's me. That's so sick. I'm a fraud, call me a liar. A true psycho. I'm a fraud, call me a liar. A true psychopath, don't love me. When you're lost, take your trust. Yeah, that's me. Oh, that's me, that's me, that's me. Yes, I'm a fraud. Call me a liar. A true psychopath.
Hey, fancy meeting y'all here. First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Cement Shoes, for being a member for 27 months. That was a long time, and I appreciate your support so very much. Thank you. And Pointer Lover, thank you for being a member for 12 months. I appreciate it. That's a long time. Thank you so much for your support. And also, thank you, Ableist, for giving a Ward Case Studies membership. I appreciate that. So very generous. And just so you guys, if you guys got one, be sure to thank Ableist. I am allowed to gift memberships, so I did. And I forgot what I was going to say. Something else. I don't remember. Oh, so before I sent Allie the link, and she will be here whenever she gets here. It's no biggie. But I wanted to let you guys know in case you missed it last night. So last night, Allie and I were on ATS News's channel, and she and I announced, hold on, I got to get comfortable. I'm comfortable in this chair. Sorry. Anyway, she and I announced that we are going to be covering the Karen Reed trial. Because neither one of us know a whole lot about the case. Like, we know the basics, but we don't know like all the various, twists and turns and rabbit holes. And it's been a super long time since I've covered a trial that I don't know all the things. And this trial is so polarizing. Like, people are either 100% convinced that she's 100% guilty, or they're convinced 100% that she's 100% innocent. And I am really interested in the what's going to come out at trial. Is the state going to be able to prove their case? Is the defense going to be able to raise enough reasonable doubt where she gets acquitted? And also the third option, which is the one that I'm most interested in, is Karen Reed potentially actually innocent? Because see, being acquitted and being actually innocent are two very different things. And so I'm curious about that. So Allie and I are going to do that, and I will stream the trial, and then we'll have our discussions and stuff. But I am still going to talk about the Daybell trial too, because I'm very invested in how this comes out. And I feel like maybe people aren't watching the trial, Chad's trial, as much because they think, well, we've seen it already. We've seen it, it all came out in Lori's trial. But I want to tell you guys, that is not exactly true. So Cement Shoe, she is accused of using her car and running over her boyfriend. Now I can't, and this is, I feel like my brain is too much Letitia right now. I know his first name is John, and why can't I think of his name? Please, somebody help me in the chat. I hate doing that. And leaving him to die in the snow. So, yeah. John O'Keefe. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Kathy, for, I can't highlight yours. Anyway, it was John O'Keefe. And yes, he was a cop. And yes. So, I'm really, I want to see, if she's actually innocent. And I will tell you, you guys, I love to cover a trial. And the thing that is disheartening to me the thing I most worry about with trials is when somebody who is actually innocent, and I'm not talking about a loophole or they raised enough reasonable doubt that they were acquitted. I'm talking about an actual innocence claim. And those, although many people claim actual innocence, most of the time, truly actual innocence claims are quite rare. And so those are the ones that I like to watch. And if this is that, I will be honest and open about it. And if it is not, I will also be honest and open about it. I'm going to tell you guys what you think or what I think. And as far as the Daybell trial goes, like people are kind of not as invested in it because they think they've seen all of the evidence before. And in some ways, there are some things that are a repeat. But I guarantee you, the cross-examination in Chad's trial is vastly different from the one in from Lori's. And there have been a lot of differences. For example, the text messages. Okay, so last year when it was when Lori was on trial, they're reading the same, or they're referring to the same iCloud account. They're talking about Lolly Time and Lori for Style. Okay, those are her two iCloud accounts. But last time, her defense objected and didn't want them read out loud in court, one line by line, because they said it was cumulative. They made the exact same argument. In that instance, Judge Boyce said, I don't think so. I think it'll be fine. And so that's when we were subjected to every single line, the storm, the shower, how they were taking a shower together while they were in two different parts of the country. All of those things. Remember that. That's where also we heard the text between Lori and Melanie Boudreau. And then we heard there were texts between Chad and Lori about turning the paint up on the children. Yeah, and those were Melanie's children, Melanie Boudreau's children, not JJ and Tylee. Still awful, right? They didn't, but this time around, Judge Boyce said, and I happen to agree with him. First of all, we all didn't need to sit through those texts again, number one, but those texts, the contents of them, some of them, I mean, some of them are just like kind of embarrassing. It's two adults being all lovey-dovey, which is gross to me. Not being affectionate with your partner is gross, but being public about it and reading it out, like, I just don't like it. No me gusta. Kind of private like that. Anyway, but the other texts, like the turning up the pain of the, on the kids and stuff like that, and the planning, and, where Lori's saying that that Tylee cleaned her room and she's being manipulative. She's definitely possessed. She's definitely dark. You know what I mean? Those kinds of texts. I think that Judge Boyce ruled the way he did because I think he wants the jury to render a verdict based on fact and not so much emotion. And those texts would elicit emotion. And so because it's a death penalty case, I think that's a lot of the reason why he ruled the way he did. So we finished up with the texts today. Hold on a minute. I need to search something else really quick. So that's how they finished up today. And then let me see here. This is what I want. And then Colby Ryan took the stand, which is Lori's oldest son. He took the stand, and I think that with his testimony, I was really worried that it was going to be, hold on a second. I didn't want them to play that. Hold on, what the fuck? I didn't want them to play that call again, the call they played from Lori's trial with brother. Hold on a second. With between Lori and Colby, where he's talking to her about JJ and Tylee, and that's the one that he calls Chad Peter Griffin in. But it was that's emotional testimony, and I didn't. But I do want. Where is I can't. Hold on a minute. I'm trying to figure. Let me find it, Colby. I'm sorry, you guys. I was trying to do this while. Oh, we also heard from the nanny. So this is a woman who was who Lori hired to babysit JJ, and the nanny didn't have like a whole lot of anything super interesting to say. She did make a comment about Lori's parenting style that JJ now at this point JJ was no longer being given his medications, and so he had a little bit of a meltdown, and she made the comment that about Lori's parenting style, that she wouldn't really correct the behavior, that she would mainly like comfort him emotionally. And I agree. I think, Lori, you're right. I think that Pryor was rude to the nanny, and for no reason. He had to ask her questions, and I kind of knew that he was going to be asking, like did you ever see Chad? Did you ever hear them refer to zombies and stuff like that? And like, here's the deal. And this is what irritates me about Pryor, but he's doing his job. It's just an asinine question. And here's where I'm going to play Colby for you guys, Music City Mom. But here's what's irritating to me about that line of questioning. Okay. I know he had to ask because that's his job. But the fact of the matter is, the talk of darkness, light and dark, and the zombies and stuff, that was conversation that was strictly reserved for the casting and chill sessions. And only the inner circle gets invited into that. Now, I will say one of the things that I'm really stuck on, and I cannot quite get my brain around it, is Pryor's fascination with Melanie Gibb. Like, he has an absolute bee in his bonnet over her. And it's in a way that has me really wondering what the deal is there. And I don't really, I cannot put it together. There has to be a reason that he is doing what he's doing. And usually I can kind of figure it out, but I cannot figure this one out. It is, hey, Charlie, it is something like, I be making fun of Melanie, okay? And I say, I make jokes about her bangs and, how she's still holding a grudge. That Melanie Gibb is still holding a grudge against Lori from that awful haircut. I will say things like that. And um, I do think that both of the Melanies are culpable. And I think a lot of that inner circle is culpable as well. Some of them to different degrees, but Melanie P and Melanie B are right at the top, right? But the way that but see, for me, I'm interested in everybody getting the justice they deserve, right? I feel that, and the punishment. So I feel that Chad is guilty 100%, but Pryor is trying to get his client acquitted. And this is what I cannot figure out. What does he have on Melanie, and why is he so intent on going at it? Because I don't see how her culpability helps um, Chad at all. In fact, it doesn't help him at all. I can't even imagine, because, okay, he did get their one major takeaway of Melanie Gibbs' testimony, that where Pryor scored a huge point. And I don't even know if the jury caught this, because Pryor kept getting in trouble for the way he was asking the question and getting in trouble for being argumentative. Was so Lori and Melanie Gibb were talking about JJ going to live with Kay Woodcock, and they were talking about what could they tell Kay was the reason that JJ was going to go live with them. Now, at this point, Melanie and Lori are both aware that Chad has labeled him dark, okay? And Melanie Gibb admitted that she was part of that planning session. And so Melanie is a lot more involved than what like she lets on. Good night, MK. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Um, and I lost my train of thought for a second. Anyway, so I get, but I understand like some of what Pryor's trying to do with Melanie, but not all of it. And Kathy says, do you think he's trying to make Gibb the alternate suspect? No, no, because there's part of me at this point, I don't think so. I cannot quite figure out what he's doing. I think that Pryor is getting Lori to make, or getting Melanie to make admissions, but the admissions that she's making, I do think that Lori, I can't even remember who the hell I'm talking about anymore. I do think that Melanie will face charges, but I think that Idaho is like, I'm not sure that we have enough to convict her. I think they're going to let Arizona take a swing at it. I think that Arizona probably has the best case against Melanie, and so I think ultimately Melanie is going to be charged. I am quite concerned about these texts between Melanie and the prosecutor. It's disconcerting to me. It is problematic for me, particularly the one text that mentions her wanting to protect her church. But for now, while we wait for Allie to get up here, I'm going to play Colby's testimony, and then we are going to get right into David Warwick, because I have a lot to say about him. All right, here we go.
versus Chad Guy Daybell.
Will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I'm going to let this play a little bit. I have to take care of Nestor, so I'll be right back, okay? Oh, well, that would be helpful if I actually let it play. Sorry about that, you guys.
Thank you.
All right, now that the witness has been sworn, I'll just inquire, Mr. Ryan, these trial proceedings have been streamed live on the court's YouTube channel and open for public access. Have you reviewed or watched any of this testimony that's taken place?
No.
Oh, and actually,
I was just going to note, Your Honor, Mr. Ryan is not subject to the exclusionary warrant.
I appreciate you
exclusionary
pointing that
rule.
out, Mr. Wood. That's correct. So, as a statutorily definite, with the definition here, he would not be subject to that. So, disregard my inquiry. Mr. Wood, you can go ahead and proceed.
And before I do, Your Honor, may I be handed States Exhibits 6 and 4?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ryan.
Afternoon.
Can you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes. Colby Ryan, Ryan.
Mr. Ryan, who is your mother?
Lori Vallow.
Uh, How many siblings do you have?
4.
Okay, can you tell us their names?
Cole, Zach, Tylee, and JJ.
And Cole and Zach, what is your specific relationship or relation to them?
They're my stepbrothers.
Who was their father?
Charles Vallow.
Your Honor, may I publish?
Yes, that's an admitted exhibit, correct?
Yes, this is States Exhibit 6.
Okay. Yes, you may.
Mr. Ryan, do you recognize that individual?
Yes.
Who is that?
That's my sister Tylee.
What is your specific relation to Tylee?
She's my half sister on my mom's side.
So you share a mother.
Mhm.
And Your Honor, may I publish States Exhibit 4?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan, do you recognize that individual?
Yes.
And if you need a drink of water, I don't know if there's tissues up there.
Yeah. I'm good.
Who is that?
That is my brother JJ.
And what is your specific relation to JJ?
He is my adopted brother.
Do you recall when JJ was adopted?
Yes.
Do you know who Charles Vallow was?
Yes.
Who was he?
He was my stepfather.
And when you say stepfather, how was he your stepfather?
He married my mom.
How long was he married to your mom?
Over 10 years.
All right. And what was your relationship like with Mr. Vallow?
He was my dad. It was good.
So is it fair to say you were close with him?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall when Mr. Vallow passed away,
Yes.
or Charles Vallow? If I say Charles, we understand who we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Do you recall when he passed away?
Yes.
Uh, when was that?
July 11th, 2019.
How did you hear about him passing away?
My mom called me and told me that he had had a heart attack.
And do you remember about what time of day that was?
Between like 1 and 3 o'clock, something in the afternoon.
In the afternoon?
Mhm.
Did you have any reason to not believe her that that's how he passed away?
No.
Did you have any occasion to go over and to your mother's house that day?
Yes.
And where was that house located?
In Gilbert, Arizona.
Do you know approximately what time you went over?
And I got off at work at 7, so around 7:30, 7:45.
Uh, what happened? What was the first thing you saw when you got there?
Tylee opened the door and hugged me, and she was crying. And then I saw my uncle Alex sitting on the couch with a bandage around his head. And then I saw my mom in the backyard, and that was it.
Did you go into the house?
Yes.
Did you see your brother JJ there?
No.
Okay, so you guys, I know this is probably really, really shitty, and I'm sorry. It is, and I feel awful saying this out loud, but I know that I can trust you guys. It's just 103 of my closest friends and Allie. It is really difficult for me to listen to Colby testify, and I almost don't want to play it again because I do feel like it's hard for him too. And so I think I'm going to just pause it right here. I'm going to welcome Allie. Hey, babe, how are you?
Hey, happy to
Is that
be here.
good? It's just sad. I can't do it. I can't talk about
Yeah.
Colby. It's too hard. And I feel awful about that because he deserves to be spoken about. He is a victim in all of this. Lori was such an asshole in the way that she spoke to him on that call. And on top of it, she was text messaging Colby as Tylee after Tylee was dead.
Yeah.
After she had whatever role Lori had, whether she was hands on, hands off, it doesn't matter because in the end she was complicit, and she knew all of that. So we're going to skip over that. One of the questions that Petunia asked me, and I want to address this because this is very, very important. Okay. So Petunia said, say, Jen, do you know anything about this other group name, ? That Pryor asked both Melanie and David if they were part of, yet they both denied knowing of? Yes, the answer is yes. He's asking them the wrong name, which is why they're telling him, new phone, who dis? We don't know. Because he's not asking them the right name. The name of the group that he's talking about, I think, is the 7 witnesses. Okay. And I did a little Googling earlier and figured this out.
Hey, Laura.
Hang on a second. Let me see how I did that. Why is it not pulling it back? That's so very rude, phone. Okay.
Jen, I almost came in with a funny thing under my name called like something it had like the hiding emojis, and it said looking for shelter from the storm or something. And then I put ... help. And then I realized when I came in, you were doing Colby. So I left and came back and deleted it because I was like, I don't even want to like come in like that during Colby's testimony. So,
Okay. So hold on a minute. There's a ton of videos about it, but I shan't be clicking this link because it's not secure.
some
So,
Googling, Katie. She said some Googling.
oh,
Some
Googling. Yeah, I Google it. Googled. Google it. Googles, the Googles, Googled, all those things. Okay. Google it. So, this particular group that they're referring to is the witnesses that claim to have seen the golden plates from which Smith translated the Book of Mormon. The most significant witnesses were the 3 witnesses and the 8 witnesses, all of whom allowed their names to be used on 2 separate statements included with the Book of Mormon. Critics have challenged the nature and reliability of the accounts, but church leaders contend that none of the witnesses ever denied what they saw. That is who that is. That's who they're referring to. The 7 witnesses. Okay, the gold plates. The gold plates go back to Moroni. Moroni is said to have taken the plates and brought them to the Americas. He's also the person or the angel that revealed them himself to Joseph Smith and revealed the location of where the gold plates were located. The gold plates are basically similar to like the 10 Commandments, but for the Americas. Why? I don't know. That's just the way that it goes. That's the deal. Okay. So how that all plays into the 144 is a little bit more complicated. Okay. The way that I understand it is when the specific number 144,000 is mentioned, and what's mentioned along with that is the tribes. They're talking about the original tribes, the tribes that were the Hebrew slaves. Those are known as, the belief is that the Hebrews are God's chosen people. And it is believed that only the Hebrews, which are the Jewish, when Jesus comes again, if you're Christian, you believe that he was crucified, he arose on the 3rd day, and he will come back and usher in something new. Okay. The Jewish faith, they do believe in a Messiah. They just don't believe that the Messiah that came, that the Christians believe in, was the Messiah. Okay. That's the only difference. So Moroni is said to be one of the original tribes. So, and that all of his descendants, which would now be the Mormons, the Latter-day Saints, are part of the original tribes. So they will all ascend to, the 144,000 are supposed to ascend to actual heaven, and the rest of us, except for me because I'm a heathen, will have essentially heaven on earth. Okay. So that's the deal. That's what they believe. That's their belief system. Okay. That is what they're talking about. And Pryor is not asking about the specific belief, or he's not asking he's not saying the specific group, which is why when David and Melanie are asked about it, they're like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. That's why. Now, moving forward, we're going to listen to a little bit of David Warwick's testimony. Okay. Not so much his direct examination, because I don't think that's really all that important, but we are going to listen to his cross exam. And the reason why we listen to his cross examination is because I need to verify where this came from, but I've heard it repeatedly from people who I actually do trust. Apparently one of the text messages between Melanie Gibb and the prosecutor Rob Wood, it contains something to the effect of, I just want to protect the church or my church. Okay. So I want to explain a little bit about that. When Melanie and David and any of the other regular people, witnesses that come later on in the trial, are talking about these quote unquote meetings, they're using meetings, that word, in the loosest form. A meeting is really nothing more than a group of people gathering together, right? So that's all that it really is. It's not that deep. But the subject matter of for which they were meeting is not something that is approved by or sanctioned by. It is not like an official LDS sponsored event. Okay. And the things that they are talking about are like past probations, visions. It isn't that LDS don't believe in that, but it's more that the people who were given these gifts, it's just sort of, how do I explain this? It's just not one of those things that they talk about. And when they're talking about, like when David Warwick talks about that weekend, the weekend that they believe that JJ was murdered. And they go out and they're looking at this field and describing a building. And he's, talking about witnessing it. Witnessing something in the LDS faith is very, very important. There isn't anything that can be said that occurred without witnesses. And it's not enough, which is what that phone call between Melanie Gibb and Lori Vallow talks about a lot. Well, it wasn't witnessed. It wasn't witnessed. So it can't just be between you, God, and Jesus. There has to be other people, mortal people, normal, regular folk there to witness it as well, or it didn't happen. Sort of like on the YouTube streets, how if you don't have it's a screenshot or it didn't happen, okay, or clip or it didn't happen. It's receipts. And the problem with the things that Lori and Chad were not, and Julie Rowe, because that's how it started. It started with Julie Rowe and Chad. Chad was a follower of Julie Rowe's, and then he decided to go his own way. Okay. And the things that they were teaching, only certain people are allowed to teach about that. And they were not sanctioned by the church to teach those things. Okay. And so it's kind of like, so that's why when Melanie and David are talking about these things, when they're talking about these meetings, when they're talking about these visions, when they're talking about the light and the dark, it's part of the reason why they distance themselves, because they are still part of the mainstream LDS church. And teaching these things, talking is one thing, but teaching is something very different and could actually get them kicked out of their church. And so that's why they're speaking the way that they are. They don't want to own what it is that they've done because they don't want to be excommunicated. It is a big deal to be excommunicated from the LDS church. And I was talking on Disorder in the Courts panel today, and we discussed this a little bit. I think that when the LDS Church does not want to talk about this crime, and they are really distancing themselves from it because some of the language that Chad and Lori used does come from the Book of Mormon, the witnessing, some of the scripture that they're quoting, things like that. That does come from tenets of the LDS faith from the Book of Mormon. But it's really like an elephant in the room. It's like polygamy. So when Joseph Smith prophesied about polygamy, it was a directive, Joseph Smith said, that came from God himself. And the LDS Church didn't stop practicing polygamy because they came to realize that it's not a good situation. It's not healthy for any of the people living polygamy. They stopped practicing polygamy because it's against the law in the United States, and they were tired of being prosecuted, although they used the word persecuted, but they were prosecuted for practicing polygamy. It is illegal in the United States and has been for a very, very long time. And so they stopped practicing it. And if you guys haven't already, and I was telling Allie about this too, you should, if you have Hulu, you should check out the series Under the Banner of Heaven, because it does a really good job at explaining this kind of thing, this kind of situation. As a mainstream LDS member, you're not allowed to associate with like the fundamentalists. And it's not just the FLDS. There's another sect, and they're called something almost similar to FLDS, but I can't remember the name of them right off the top of my head. Do you know, Allie, that name? Anyway.
No, I don't know any of this stuff. Like, you know so much more than me about I don't know anything about the Mormon religion, really. I know a little bit about Jehovah's Witness because we talked about that, like studied that with that lady some, but I don't know nothing about this. I'm just enjoying listening to you and eating salted caramel gelato.
Ooh, that sounds delicious. So they consider, like Warren Jeffs, the fundamentalists, Latter-day Saints, they consider them apostates because they've left the mainstream church and they're practicing fundamentalism, which the fundamentalist is the fundamentalist principle, which is polygamy. And the LDS Church doesn't want any part of that. And so
I watched a show, I know a little bit about that.
Okay.
The FLDS, and it's what's that show where they're like leaving the religion and those girls
escaping polygamy.
Yes, I watched that some, which that's a good show, but
yeah, it is a very good show. So anyway, if you're even associating or talking to somebody or seen talking with somebody, no matter what you're talking about, and it gets back to the church, you're in trouble. Okay. So, and not like a little trouble, like big trouble. Good night, legendary CEO. Thanks for being here.
Night, legendary.
So anyway, the bottom line is that it's like a big deal. And that is part of the reason why David Warwick and Melanie use the language that they do, because they are still part of the church. And this is another part about Chad that I don't think they don't talk about a lot, because it doesn't have anything to really, you can't really talk about it during the trial. He has the freedom of religion. But Chad was not interested in forming his own religion, his own group. What he was interested in, what he wanted ultimately, was for the LDS Church to accept what he was doing and allow it to become part of the church.
But how was Melanie not in trouble? And how are they still allowed to be members? I'm surprised about that, for even following and practicing what Chad was doing and taking part in these.
I don't know, because I don't that kind of stuff. That's one of those things that people who are not part of the LDS faith will never be told. That kind of stuff is like, it's like the temple. This is why Pryor keeps making a big deal about this temple situation. Okay? Because the temple is a very, very sacred place for Mormons. If you are invited to a Mormon wedding and you are not a Mormon, you will not be watching the wedding take place in the temple. You have to be LDS to enter that temple. And for Lori and Chad to be allowed to go in that temple and do any type of sealing, because it's been back and forth about this, what they were doing, the sealing process. And a sealing is SEALING. It's for eternity in this life, and when you die, you will be together forever. You're sealed together. It's literally what it means. And there's been back and forth whether it was a sealing of marriage between the two of them, which would be very wrong, because at the time Charles and Tammy were still alive, or if it was a sealing for the deceased, also makes no sense, because again, Chad and Lori, Charles and Tammy were still alive. So that is why this all is somewhat a big deal. That's why it's very complicated and it's very convoluted, but this is why I get frustrated with the Melanies and the David Warwicks. I am personally of the opinion, I can't prove it, obviously, but I am of the opinion some of the talk that David Warwick does is some of the stuff I don't think he believed or wasn't believing in it all the way. But here's the problem with that. The way that David Warwick and Chad met was through Julie Rowe. David Warwick was a huge fan and follower of Julie Rose. And Julie teaches something similar to what Chad teaches, in that talking about having a near-death experience and being able to speak with God, Jesus, and after that having visions, premonitions, etc. I don't know what David believed or didn't believe, to be honest with you. I know what he says, but it does strike me very, very odd, the timing. And let me just play some of David. Let me shut up a little bit and let you guys just hear. All right, here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated. All right, we're back on the record on CR 2221-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. Parties are present as well as the defense. Mr. Warwick's on the stand. I'll remind you, you're still under oath for your testimony. Mr. Wixom, continuing on direct examination. You may proceed, Mr. Wixom.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Warwick, I want to draw your attention back to that Sunday afternoon and evening after you looked at the property. When you came back, did you have any other interaction at all with JJ? No. Did you see him in the apartment that day?
I believe he was there Sunday afternoon when we came back.
Thinking back to the last time that you saw JJ, When was it that day? What time of day was it?
It was probably about 10:30 at night.
And what do you recall seeing him doing when you last saw him?
Alex came in the front door and he had JJ in his arms and he carried him upstairs and put him to bed. And JJ, was asleep. So,
Now, at some point in that evening, did you do a podcast?
yeah, we did that Sunday night.
About what time of night, best you can recall?
And we started seemed like about 7:30 and we were just finishing it up when Alex brought JJ home.
And who all was at the podcast and participating?
Melanie and Lori and myself.
Was Chad there at that time?
No,
And where in the apartment did you do the podcast?
in Lori's kitchen.
So was the podcast happening before you saw Alex bring JJ in and take him upstairs?
Yes,
And then you slept in that apartment that night, correct?
yes.
About what time did you go to bed?
Probably 11 o'clock, 11:30, right in there.
To the best that you understood, who else was at the apartment that night?
Lori and Melanie, JJ and myself.
I don't think I asked this before, but at any point during the weekend, did you ever see Tylee at the apartment?
No,
Ever see her around anywhere?
no.
When you got up the next morning, did you have any more interactions with Lori?
Yes.
And what were those interactions?
We came downstairs. I came downstairs getting ready to leave for Pocatello. So I just went to say goodbye to Lori and JJ. And Lori was in the kitchen and she was a little dramatic. And I just said, well, we're leaving. I'd like to say goodbye to JJ. And she said, oh, he was out of control. And I had to have Alex come and get him.
So, Mr. Warwick, other than what she said, you just used the word dramatic. What did you mean by that?
She just seemed really talking fast and nervous. Just kind of, when I meant by dramatic, she explained that he climbed up on the cabinets in the fridge and got on top of the upper cabinets, and it just her explanation of how JJ was acting was what I would say was dramatic.
Was it different than your other interactions with Lori?
Yeah.
Did she say anything else about him climbing up on the cabinets? JJ?
No, she had a picture of Christ on the upper cabinet, and he said that he went up there and pushed that down.
Now,
Hold on, I just want to clarify something. This is direct testimony. I wanted you guys to hear, and I forgot to say this before I hit play. I wanted you guys to hear the last time that David Warwick saw JJ and then Lori's reaction the next morning. So this is direct testimony. I forgot that part. My bad.
did that seem accurate to you, her account of what had happened with JJ climbing on the cabinets?
No,
Why not?
because I didn't see any broken parts on the cabinet. I didn't see any scuffs on the fridge. And the crown on the top, if he would have got up there, that crown would have just pulled off.
Is cabinet crowning something you're familiar with as a builder?
Yes.
Did you get a close observation of the crown on the cabinet then?
Yeah.
Did you say anything about this to Lori?
No, I just said, well, she said that he was having a possession attack. And so I said, well, I'd really like to see him. And she said, no, Alex has got him and he's taking care of him.
Did you hear that, Allie? Did you hear what he just said?
No, because Emmy's having a coughing fit and I'm
She
giving her
okay?
medicine. Can you tell me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
she's
I'm going to rewind it so you can hear it and the chat can hear it. I want you guys to pay attention to this last thing that he says. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
That he was having,
Let me go back a little bit more.
Then,
yeah.
did you say anything about this to Lori?
No, I just said, well, I'd like, she said that he was having a possession attack. And so I said, well, I'd really like to see him. And she said, no, Alex has got him and he's taking care of him.
When she said he's having a possession attack, did she say anything else about that aspect of it?
No, just she just said she just couldn't handle it.
Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the Court of the Ward Case Studies. Now, I ask you, if somebody said to you that their son was doing all of the things that Lori had accused JJ of doing, climbing on top of the refrigerator, on top of the cabinets, pulling, knocking down Jesus, and then followed that up with, he's having he stopped short. He started to say, she said he was possessed, and he stopped short of saying that. He said, she said he was having a possession attack. Now, I ask you, ladies and gentlemen of the Ward Court, the Ward Case Studies Court, if this wasn't first of all, if this is something that you knew nothing about, you didn't believe in anything that Chad, Lori, or Melanie were talking about. It was all mumbo jumbo and baloney to you. And and not only did you not believe some of the stuff that you were saying, you weren't let in on the majority of the stuff. And this woman tells you that her son is having a possession attack, which I believe what he started to say was what she actually said, which was that he was possessed and that he needed to be with Alex. If you'd never heard any of this stuff before, wouldn't you have some fucking follow-up to that? Like, what do you mean he's possessed? What say you, Allie?
Yeah. Also, yeah, what the heck is a possession attack?
Exactly.
And Alex is taking care of him. The way he words it, I don't know. I feel like I truly believe that him and Melanie have been coached to know how to say what they're going to say. Not that they have been told what to say. They have came with this story, but they have helped them fine tune their words.
Correct.
In my opinion.
Correct. If you're not having these talks about light and dark and this rating scale and 144,000 and all the things that Melanie and David both claim they weren't really participating in, and they didn't believe in any of it. If somebody came to you and said that their child was either way was possessed or was having a possession attack, is that something that you would just be let it go and just be like, oh, if it's not something you'd already talked about?
Yeah, and then the child is just all of a sudden gone.
Correct.
After that, you know what I mean? And so come on now.
Right, exactly. This is the thing. I'm not saying that maybe David should have intervened or anything like that. What I'm saying is, if this is a new concept to you, listen, I'm not particularly religious. I believe basically in being a good person, but I was raised Catholic. And I have actually looked into a lot of different religions along the way to try to find my inner peace. And I'm going to leave it at that because I think religion is private. I know what possession is. But if somebody told me that their child was having a possession attack or possessed, I would stop and ask what the fuck they were talking about. What do you mean? What are you talking about? And this is why this is why I am saying they know more than what they're telling. And it's these little tiny itty bitty leaks like this that are important. None of this gets Chad out of any culpability. This fool is up to his eyeballs and past his eyeballs over his head. He's part of it. He's culpable. All of these things. I say this because there are other people that are culpable as well, and I would like to see them be charged.
Same.
That's my problem.
Same here.
That's why I have an issue with this.
Whoa, dude, how does this work? The StreamYard app is, if I click on a comment, it gives me the option to show it on stage. How?
Well, do it. Let me see.
Okay, but I don't think it's working because I'm pressing it. But it says show on stage in blue. I'll take a screenshot to show you.
Okay.
And yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
Random but weird. Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you, and you can.
Yes,
I mean,
Bernadette, they did. Bernadette said the police found a list on an email, didn't they, saying the level of evil everyone is. Yes, that's correct.
yeah.
But here's the thing, this is where I don't understand how there can be a secret proffer agreement. That's something that would have to be divulged to the defense. And so I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm not saying, oh, absolutely not. But what I can't figure out is,
Yeah, because we thought the same thing, really. We're like, what the heck?
Yes. It seems like if it would be so much worse. It would be so much worse if it were discovered. Do you see what I'm saying? Lil Red, listen, girl, I am right there with you, babe. Something is very wrong with the 344 texts. None of us can understand it.
Yep.
None of us can figure that out. And it does not, all I can say is the milk don't look clean. I can't say if it is or isn't, but it's sure, I'm not sure. It's very suspect. I wouldn't drink it.
Yep, agree.
And you're right. Maybe it's not written, but then it wouldn't technically be a proffer. Do you know what I mean? Like whatever is going on isn't something that's formal, because otherwise Pryor would have the right to know about it. And it's not a good look. It's really, really grating on me. And I think it's part of the reason that Pryor keeps going at him, at Melanie, because he even goes at David Warwick about Melanie. All right.
Can I have just one moment, please?
Yes.
I think he takes a moment and decides he's done.
Mr. Wixom, Mr. Pryor,
But let me tell you what was not asked about David. Not asked yet. Not on direct anyway. What do you think it was, Allie? What is the one thing that they might that we've been talking about the last couple of nights with respect to David Warwick?
His nightmare?
Correct. That was not asked.
Wow.
They didn't talk about the nightmare.
Wow.
Didn't talk about trying to get Chad over there for a priestly blessing. None of that. Okay, so Brandy, I think it was day 4 or 5. Yes, creme crochet coffee and coffee. I think it was like day 4 or 5 of witness testimony. Pryor wanted to introduce a piece of evidence, and the prosecution said, hell no, and they argued and they ended up winning, I believe. there are allegedly 344 texts between prosecutor Rob Wood and Melanie Gibb. And this is where we don't know. We only know because Pryor mentioned, I feel like it came from Pryor, something to the effect of protecting the church. It came from somewhere. I will track down the source. I'm tired from making fun of Letitia all night, so you guys got to cut me some slack. But that is a lot of texts. That is much more
Alarming,
than will sneak you in the side door. Clearly they weren't talking about outfits that would go unrecognized. Melanie looking like Mrs. Walsh from the damn 90210 when she was gardening that day. You couldn't miss her in that big old sun hat of hers. They certainly weren't discussing that. That is a lot of texts. 344. Now, granted, I don't know, because it wasn't really clear about, like, is it 344 texts over the span of the beginning of the investigation until now? Because then that would be what, 19 to
They
now?
were found in June 9th of 2020, the kids.
Right.
So 4 years.
Yeah. So four, maybe 5 years divided by 344. I mean, it's still a lot, though. It's still a lot. I mean, Allie and I have been friends for what? We're coming up on a year. And
No,
we
we're
probably
past that, Jen, because we did the trial together for Tisha and stuff, and that was
this
over a year.
month this year, little bit in April of 2022. 2023,
Yeah,
I mean.
we were friends before that,
Oh,
but that
that's true.
isn't.
But talking
Yeah.
through text, I should say. And I
Yeah.
guarantee you, we have at least 344 texts. So by comparison, it just depends on, I don't understand why there would be that need, though. It seems to me that, that's way too personal. And listen, I'm not saying there's anything untoward going on between Melanie and the prosecutor. I don't think it's any type of like hanky panky or anything like that. I don't. But I do think that it's not a good look. And I want to know what's in there. I've never heard of anything like this before, ever. Ever. It's problematic. All right, so now Pryor is making his way over to the podium, and we're going to hear some of the cross-examination. Here we go. Okay. I need a cigarette. You guys are going to have to listen to this for a minute because they got me pressed and stressed. So I'll be right back.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Mr. Warwick, you previously mentioned that you were married to Melanie Gibb.
Yes,
Okay, what was the date of the marriage?
December 10th, 2020.
Close in around the time of all of these occurrences. Would that be fair?
Yes. Well, a year later, I guess.
Okay. And when did you first meet Miss Gibb?
At a conference that at UVU.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to remember the date.
That's okay. Just take your time. We're not in a hurry.
Okay. Met her at a conference. I think it was I don't remember the year. It's probably 2000. 2012 or 2013 or 14, somewhere in there.
Okay. And then approximately when did the two of you start dating?
We started in August of 2019.
Now, at the time, you had mentioned that it sort of offended you that Mr. Daybell was married and was seeing someone even though he was still legally married, right?
Well, in relation to the things that they were, like the beliefs that they were, didn't match up.
The beliefs didn't match up.
Well, what they were saying they were doing about their calling and then seeing each other
Okay.
didn't match up. That's,
Inconsistent.
yeah, it's
he
you
was
just,
having- I'm sorry.
yeah, nope, I'm done, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I'm done.
Okay. So what he was preaching wasn't consistent with the way he was acting. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay, but at the time you started dating Miss Gibb, you were still married too, weren't you?
Yeah, my divorce was just getting finalized.
But you started dating her while you were still legally married, weren't you?
Well, I made the mistake. I thought I was doing the 30-day waiver
Okay.
on, for the time.
Mhm.
And, but I didn't understand that the judge needed another 60 days after the 30 days.
So
And I'd already paid for two plane tickets to have some time with her in August with my son, Nicholas. And so we just went forward and went, and did those two things for August.
So in other words, you traveled, so when you met her in August of 2019, you were already planning on going on a vacation with her, is that right?
No, not a vacation.
What was it?
One was, the Zion, it was called the Zion's Camp. It's a kind of educational camp.
Okay,
And I wanted to see how she would do with my son, Nicholas.
okay. And
'Cause I was taking care of my son, Nicholas. That was the whole reason for the divorce, because my wife at the time, it was too much. We had him with us for several weeks. And so I don't have time. I don't know how much time you want for the details, but that was the whole motivation was,
you divorced your wife because she wasn't taking proper care of your son, Nicholas, and it's all about Nicholas, right?
no, we mutually agreed. We
Okay.
did not want a divorce, but
I-
we needed to get Nicholas out of the home that he was in because he was suffering some abuses there.
Okay,
If you'd like to go into more, I'd be happy to.
you don't have to.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't
That's
want to go
fine,
into this
okay.
much, but I just wanted to clarify a few things that were of a concern, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Now, I do want to talk a little bit about an organization called the Seven Gatherers. You're familiar with that, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay. And to your knowledge, your wife isn't a member of the Seven Gatherers.
Okay. So a couple of things before I forget. If you didn't see them in chat, welcome back, babe. Okay. First of all, and it's important to note this because this is an important detail. David Warwick was not born into the LDS faith. He converted. Okay. And it's interesting to me because some of the words that he chooses to use, calling means something very, very, very specific to the Mormon religion. Okay. It is basically, I don't know another way to put it, but a call from God. Something that they pray upon, something that they prayed about for an answer to, and they received, they call it revelation and a message, however you want to put it. And it's basically a direction from God. Also, I find the way that he talks about meeting Melanie and how their relationship began in the first place. Remember, homeboy is married to Melanie and has been married to Melanie since 2020. Okay. It's 2024. Technically, they're still newlyweds. I mean, they haven't even hit the 7-year itch mark yet. I've been with my husband for this year. Tomorrow will be 29 years. Next year will be 30 years. And I'm, 47 for Pete's sake. I've been with him more than half my life. And I can tell you guys our story and how we met. And it wouldn't be this story for sure. The first time we did it, our first getaway was to church camp. It wasn't, and he makes it very clear it wasn't a vacation. He doesn't even remember. It's the way he speaks about Melanie. It isn't as the way that you would expect to hear a husband testify about their wife. Make no mistake, I'm not a lovey-dovey, mushy-gushy kind of gal, and neither is my husband. But if we were to tell our story, just the story itself is romantic. I mean, it's, from 1995. It's as romantic as we knew how to be at 18 and 21. Okay, we met at a club. So it is what it is, but we were smitten kittens from jump. We hung out that we met on a Sunday, hung out on a Tuesday, and we have been together ever since. Inseparable. And even putting it like that is more romantic than, no, it wasn't a vacation. We went to freaking church camp. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Part of me believes, though, that Melanie talks about him in a more way, you know what I mean? Like, especially when she testified at the preliminary hearing.
Yes.
Like, I got that vibe, not so much with this one. But
No.
I don't know. That's weird. It's weird.
It is weird. It is weird. And this is what I think. This is my theory. I think that they married each other. You see, there's a lot of marriages in this whole scenario, is there not? We have the first marriage, right? Chad and Lori. Then we have Zulema and Alex. Then we have Melanie P. and Ian. And now we have Melanie and David Warwick. All of these marriages were quick, and their courting time, there was no dating, there was no courting, there was nothing. It's almost like they were, I don't know how else to say it, they were arranged.
Yeah.
And I think Melanie did have, or does have, oh yes, I'm with you, Lil Red. I'm married. I do agree that the marriage is a marriage because they don't want to testify against each other. That is what I believe. Yes. But I feel like the marriages were arranged. Now, it is possible that Melanie had a crush on David Warwick, and she feels lovey-dovey towards him. But from his part, it doesn't sound like it at all. Can't even remember when they met.
Yeah, but okay, so I'm with you part of the way, because I don't know that I think it was for testifying reasons, but I know the marriages were arranged. Let's look at Alex and Zulema and Melanie B and Ian. They did not know each other at all either. And they were basically put together, probably arranged by Chad and Lori.
Yes. No, I think
They
Melanie
knew each other
Gibb
for
and
no
David.
time.
Yes, I think Melanie Gibb and David Warwick's marriage is because they don't want to test. Is to keep them from being compelled to testify. Not everybody else, just David and Melanie, because they don't live together.
But that would only be to testify against each other. It wouldn't be to testify against Chad and Lori.
Right, exactly. To not have to testify against each other.
I don't know, but they definitely are arranged. All of
And
the
they don't
marriages
live
are.
together. And they don't live together. You know, how did they crack what occurred between Lori and Chad? Somebody in the inner circle had to cave, right? That was Melanie. And if you're trying to get to the root of what happened and who all was involved, And you've got two people who were there the last night that JJ was ever seen alive, and they're married, and you can't get to them. You can't, you know what I'm saying? You cannot compel them. You can't make them talk about one another because they're married. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but let's remember the phone call that Chad and Lori and them had. Chad was like thinking that David was turning Melanie against them because David was never really truly part of their thing like Melanie was. You know what I mean?
Well, see, I question that, and here's why. David was part of the Feel the Fire podcast. In fact, he came to Idaho specifically to do the Feel the Fire podcast. The Feel the Fire podcast was everything that they're talking about right now, not all
Yeah, but didn't a
of-
lot of people do it? Like, didn't they have different guests all the time?
I mean, they did have multiple guests all the time, but if David isn't somebody that believed the way that they believed or was into the things that they were into, what would be the point of having him on?
Well, but how does that explain the phone call, which we know Chad and Lori had no idea was being taped, and Melanie does, and Chad is saying basically that David's turning you against us. He's gotten into your head, hasn't he?
Well, I feel like that it could, I mean, you could be right, but I also feel like that is a manipulation tactic on Chad's part. It doesn't necessarily mean that Chad believed it, but we've seen it in real life happen to people that we know, where it usually happens in a group of women, 3 women, and there will be the one woman will try to turn another woman against another. You see what I'm saying? And what they'll sound like Letitia. So what I'm saying is, if Allie, if you were coming to me and you were starting to say, you know, Jen, I don't think I like the way the channel is going, I might say to you, well, did Wolfie get in your ear? You know that, Wolfie has never really liked me. You know that I'm not as close to Wolfie as you are, Allie. Doesn't mean that I actually believe that any of what I'm saying. It's a manipulation tactic to get you to question what Wolfie's motives are. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's possible. For me, though, it just takes too much assuming things that I don't like. That would be, I don't know. My gut tells me that no, that Chad really did believe David was turning Melanie, and I don't think that the way that, so I must be in the minority because I see like a lot of people feel how you feel, but for me, I always felt like David really didn't like Chad that much, and it was going a little too far for him. And he's the only reason that Melanie, besides saving her own ass, could see anything else but what they were doing. I've always kind of seen it that way, but I don't know. It's possible.
It's possible that we're both right in a way. It's possible that maybe that you're right in that. I will say this, the thing about Chad and Lori that makes them particularly dangerous together, separate they're dangerous, but together they're even more dangerous, is the fact that while they go about it in different ways, they're both very, very good at seeing what another person needs and wants to hear, and or wants them to be, and doing and being and saying just that. And so I think that while Chad may not, because again, Chad and David met through Julie Rowe. And maybe David wasn't a super fan of Chad. Maybe he wasn't all, in. Maybe he did have reservations. Maybe he did have doubts. And so, but maybe he had doubts in Chad more than what Chad, more than the other parts of it, the belief system. Do you see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so perhaps he tolerated Chad, but in the end, I think it's probably a combination of what you and I are both thinking. I think that's probably closer to the truth.
Yeah, I think
But
you're
I
probably
just,
right. Little parts
yeah.
of both are
Mhm.
probably closer to the truth, and probably a little bit of something neither one of us have thought at all with these people.
Exactly, exactly. See, it's very difficult for me. Yeah, I think that David was more in line with the stuff that Julie Rowe was talking about. And I think that the stuff that Chad began to talk about, he was like, whoa, 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 you know. But
Right.
I don't think he
Now people
believed.
are dying.
Correct. Correct. Melanie was all in. You know what I mean? But
Yeah. Yeah.
there is something about that
Yeah.
night and that nightmare that story surrounding the nightmare that just don't sit right with me. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm just saying I don't think it happened the way they're saying. There's parts that are left out of it. It does not make logical sense. So
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I totally
something is,
agree. And Katie,
yeah.
you guys are
Aw.
a huge part of my life too. But yes, Jen, I agree with you. And I love the last part made me laugh, even though money.
Aw, KD. I'm so glad that you could be here with us.
Me too.
So
But yeah, I'm with you, dude. That nightmare. And why did they not ask about it?
yes, that's my other thing. Why not ask about that? See, remember when the state is presenting their case in chief, which is what's going on right now, and they're in charge of the direct examination, the questions. Okay. Prior is in most cases, in all cases, but this one's a little bit different. They have agreed to allow prior in an effort to expedite the trial, because everybody is under, except for I'm sure there's somebody else, but right now it's the only people I know for sure that are, or only person I know is Colby. He is exempt from the not being allowed to watch any testimony that's already taken place or talk about his head. He's exempt from all of that. But David, Warwick, and Melanie Gibb, and even the professionals are all under the same admonishment. Okay. And they have agreed, the prosecution and the state have agreed to allow prior to go a little bit out of the scope on cross-examination in an effort to expedite the trial so that he's not having to recall these people and present them as witnesses for his side. It's to make it go faster. But he's still limited. He can't just be asking anything and everything. And I personally feel like this was done intentionally on the part of the prosecution, because whatever is going on with that nightmare situation, they're concerned about how it will look in front of the jury. And I believe that, yes, we'll get to that. Let me highlight this. And I believe that is why the nightmare wasn't asked, because I don't think they want it brought up again in front of the jury, because prior is going to go in on it the way he did with Melanie, only this time, this is the person who actually had the nightmare. And I feel like, did they, Scara? We'll get, let me highlight yours in just a second. Give me just a sec. Okay, so ATS News said, someone said Chad's kids will testify. That's why they're not there. Is that true? It's not all of them. This is Pryor's exact quote. I think like 3 or 4 of them will testify. So yes, that's true. It came from Pryor. He said it in his opening statement. He said that they would testify. Okay, and then Scara. Scara. Go ahead, babe. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, it's just another comment.
Okay. Scara says, Jen Lou, I think the state requested to put a stop to the extra cross-examination because defense was taking it too far. I know that they objected one time and said, hey man, not really. They said it like legally and, through legalese and all of that. But they were like, he's going way too far, even with the courtesy being extended, he's going too far. And I think the judge said basically how he's going to handle it is the state can make their objections as needed, and they will and he will rule on it accordingly. Okay, now what was the comment you wanted me to ask about, Allie?
So Corky asked well, first, I might sound weird, Little Red, because I am inside and I'm trying to be a little quieter, but I'm about to go back outside. But Corky had said, does anyone know if Kay was going to testify? And I doubt she is, because if you remember during Lori's, they let her go first so she could watch.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't you think that maybe she's not if she didn't go first this time?
I know I don't know that I've seen Kay and Larry be in the gallery. I feel like that would have been pointed out, and I'm not sure. Thank you, Ableist. Thank you so much. Generally, your theories are fascinating. This is so interesting. Thank you. And thank you for the other gifted membership. You didn't have to do that. That's all right. Thank you so much. I don't know what the deal with Kay is. She might be similar to Colby, and perhaps that admonishment wasn't given to her. I don't know. I haven't heard anything one way or the other. The witness list is sealed, and I'm kind of curious too if she will be testifying. I think she was more integral in Lori's trial than in this one, because what she would what they would probably put her on the stand for is stuff that's already actually been testified to, which is the welfare call. That's how all of this began. And so I'm not sure that they want to put her through that.
Or finding the rings and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. But they're not there yet. I mean, they've talked about it a little bit, but she's the one that found it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very possible that perhaps the state does not want to subject Kay to Pryor. Because
oh my God, I just freaking put Vicks Vapor Rub in my mouth because I put it on Emmy and I bit my nail. I didn't wash my hands after. I should have washed my hands. I just put it on her bag. I'm gonna be okay, right?
Yes, you'll be just fine. Don't you smoke menthol?
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay,
I smoke the ones with the ball in it that turn to menthol. So sometimes, but
okay, it's pretty much the same thing. You're fine. I promise you'll be just fine.
Okay.
It's just a little petroleum jelly and mentholatum. It's okay. You'll be all right. I promise. They're soluble. I mean, you didn't eat a bunch of it, did you? It's not like you took a big swipe of it, did you? Okay.
It a little bit.
Oh, Allie. Look, ATS coming in with the glass half full. This is why we like you, ATS. Vicks has a lot of natural ingredients. You'll be fine.
Thanks, Amber.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Oh, but Kathy agrees
go.
with you about Pryor. She said that's exactly what I think. Neat. They don't want Kay to have to go up against Pryor.
Exactly. Because I mean, can you imagine? Put yourself in Kay's shoes. This must be difficult for her because she knows things on a completely different level than any of us will ever know. She was there in the moment that it happened, right? And she's going through it in real time as it's happening. And I would imagine that she's done a bit of trying to piece things together too. Like, how did it happen? How did Lori go from this? Because remember, in order for it was Kay that allowed and wanted Charles and Lori to adopt JJ, her grandchild. And I'm telling you guys from personal experience, I love my children. I would do anything for my children. But there is a different love that I have. And I sometimes wonder if it's a little bit greater for my grandbabies than I don't know if it's just different. You love your grandchildren differently. And only when you're a grandparent, because people used to say this to me all the time and I didn't fucking get it. And I'd be like, what do you mean you can't put it into words? How hard can it be? But look at me here. It's difficult to explain. The way that you love your grandchildren is just differently. And so for her to want JJ, one of the most precious things to her is her grandbaby, to go and be with Charles and Lori, it meant that she trusted both of them. Because you wouldn't say, well, I know my brother will do a good job, but I'm kind of on the fence about his wife. Do you know what I'm saying? So can you imagine being in Kay's shoes where you go from wanting them to raise Lori too, to raise JJ as their child, and then this happens. It's almost, and it was so quickly, Lori went from being the Lori they knew to somebody completely different, and it happened very quickly. And I can't, as a human, I can empathize with maybe some of the things that Kay herself is going through. And can you imagine trying to piece it together yourself, and then you're hearing testimony and the court's presenting things to you, and it seems that while Lori had some things going on just as part of who she was, this person sitting at this defendant's table, Chad Daybell, was the catalyst for all of it. And then they put Kay up on the stand, and then the person who's representing Chad, and we see how John Pryor does his job, and it is what it is. And here you go. And I just maybe think that the state wanted to help Kay, maybe wants Kay to avoid that as much as possible. They don't, and I don't want to say they don't need her testimony, but they don't. Her testimony wouldn't be the testimony that pushes the 12th juror over from acquittal to guilt. It's not that it's not important. What she has to say is very important, because she knows JJ, she knows Charles, she knew Tylee, she knows them. It's important, but it's not necessary to get a conviction. That's what I should say.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's probably much more necessary in Lori's case, because she knew Lori before. She had a whole, testimony about that too. So
yes. So, but it's creeping up on 11 o'clock, and I'm going to stream the trial in the morning, because we're going to finish up with David Warwick. He's still on the stand, and it's late for Allie. She's got babies and schools to, get everybody up and ready for tomorrow. And I'm going to stream tomorrow, and I need to get my beauty rest because, I'm old as hell. I got to get my beauty rest because I need it. But yeah, I thank you, Allie, for hanging in so late and letting me just because that's all I did.
No, thank you so much for having me. I love listening to you. It's very interesting. We should have brought Amber up. We should next time that we do a Daybell. Well, we should see if she wants to come.
Yeah, Amber, we need to message. Can you put me in a chat with the two of you?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then Natasha, you are funny. You guys are all funny.
Sparkle, they are.
Was so sweet. Sparkle said, "You girls just make my heart happy," or something a minute ago. It was so sweet. But I just appreciate all you guys. And then Jen, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, babe. I'm gonna thank you guys all for being here. Guys, have a great rest of your Monday night, and I will see all of you guys tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow night for part 2 of Video Calls with Tisha.
Yeah,
All
I can't
right.
wait.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.